So I'm in Charleston, West Virginia, and this ranks as the second most dangerous city in West Virginia. And of the ones below it on the top 10 list, this is about the only one that I'd actually say is dangerous. The 3 to 10, the ones ranked 3 to 10 aren't really cities that I would consider dangerous. So this is coming in at number 2. It's legitimately on the dangerous side as far as cities in America, not just cities in West Virginia. They have a population here of 46,000 people, and it's declining quickly at 1.28% a year. It peaked at 85,000 in the 1960s, and by 2029 will be half of their highest population in the 60s. So it's dropping fast. People are just moving out. It's 76% white, 15% black, 3% Asian, and 2% Hispanic. So it's far more diverse than a lot of the cities in West Virginia are. And we all know that diversity is a strength. So the average age here is 42, which seems to be common, that the average age in all these cities that I've gone through in West Virginia, or all the cities I've looked at, the average age is older than most cities for whatever reason. The average income is around $44,000 a year, which is pretty good, especially for a city that has high crime. And they have a 17% poverty rate, which also is, I mean, it sounds high, and it is high, but by American standards, that's pretty good. To only have 17% of your population living below the poverty line. They have a 42% marriage rate, which is really good, but so far all the cities in West Virginia that I've looked into the statistics on have had really good marriage rates. In general, they've had it anyway, good marriage rates. And 71% of the people that live here were born here or born in West Virginia. And they're showing 96% of the people that live here are native-born citizens. So, and that seems to be a common thing I'm finding in West Virginia in general, is that most of the people, at least in the cities that I've been in or that I've looked into, they don't have a huge foreign-born population in West Virginia. It's mostly native-born people, native-born and American people, and not people that are born in other countries and come in here. So there's something here that is not appealing to people from other countries, apparently. They have around 10 homicides a year. That gives them a murder rate around 22. And the murder rate, and I say this in a lot of my videos, the murder rate of Chicago is 22. So their murder rate, they don't have the same number of homicides that Chicago would have, but their murder rates are just as high. I'm gonna turn up one of these roads. No left turn. Let's go up one of these roads and see what's going on. And the river is really nice here. Having the city right along the river like this, it's really pretty. Let's go up in here a little bit and just see what's going on up in here. So murder rate's the same as Chicago. Their assault rates are in the 400 to 500s, which is down in the last couple of years from the 600 to 900 assault rates they previously had. So their assault rates right now, Chicago's in the low 500s. Let's even just give Chicago 550 for an assault rate. So their assault rates are slightly better than Chicago, and they came down over the last few years from assault rates that were equivalent to Baltimore. So the city, as far as the assault rates, has gotten better. I'm gonna sit at that light. As far as their assault rates, the city has gotten better, and their murder rates, but otherwise they're, at least if you go back just in the last few years, they're equivalent to Chicago. Their theft rate is really high. It's around 3,000 per 100,000 people. And I've noticed that's another trend in, well, in a lot of places, but in West Virginia so far, the places that have had the worst crime cities are the ones typically have really high theft rates. Like a lot of the cities just seem to have high theft rates, but it's a lot of this area is poorer area, and maybe that might be why. Their violent crime here is 72% higher than the national average, which is right around regular city bad. So that's, you know, most of the stuff you're going to see here is just stuff that you expect to see when you live in a city. Their property crime is 110% higher. And again, it's a little higher than regular city bad, but it's pretty much what you're going to expect if you live in a city. And your odds of becoming a victim of a crime are 1 in 22, which is, again, you know, something that just living in a city, that's just what the numbers are. But the year-over-year crime here is showing an increase of 14%, which 14% doesn't really sound like all that much, but you do that for a year or two, 3 years. Here. You do that for a few years and things get out of control fast. So the city needs to hope that they can get a handle on the crime and keep it from getting worse, because it doesn't take long if you're showing an increase of 14%. Cost of living here is, you know, better than the national average. They have 2 public high schools. One graduate students, 19% of them proficient at read or at math. The other one at 48% for math. And the West Virginia average is 33, so if you combine those 2 schools, they'd be right at around the West Virginia average. For reading, one of them graduate students at 44% and the other one at 79%. And the West Virginia average is 42%, so both of the schools are better than the West Virginia average for reading, and combined they'd be about the same as the West Virginia average for math. One of the schools graduates, only 79% of the students graduate from that school, and the other one, 93% of the students graduate. And the West Virginia average is 90. So as far as West Virginia goes, as a state, they graduate a lot of students, because across America, it's not 90%. But here, if you are thinking about moving to Charleston, West Virginia, look into which area, which school district is, and just make sure if you have kids, you send them to the right school district. Because, and that's kind of the case in a lot of these, you know, a little bit larger, not small towns and not like big cities, but, you know, these mid-size cities that have multiple schools. One does really well and the other one does really bad. So you have to look into the schools if you're planning on moving to West Virginia or putting your kids in school in West Virginia. Just make sure you're sending them to the right one, because one is significantly better than the other. And that is something I've noticed in a lot of these West Virginia schools or West Virginia cities. But the city, I mean, it's not that bad. Although the crime, like I said, the crime is pretty much, all this is closed up, but we're kind of now on the outskirts of downtown. Yeah, all of this is closed up. The crime here statistically is the same as Chicago. If you go on a per capita basis, it's not a big enough place to absorb high levels of crime, and like Chicago can absorb a high level of crime and basically keep their overall percentage numbers down. They can't here. That's just not a big enough city. So it's relatively safe. Second most dangerous city in West Virginia. You know, a little bit worse than just regular city bad, but you know, right around that same ballpark. And again, statistically, it's the same as Chicago. Looks like I'm going to get stuck at this light for a little bit, so I'm going to end this video here. And hope you like that drive through Charlotte, West Virginia.